The Hazari found out the hard way why we don't fight the humans. The humans were technologically advancing faster than the Hazari had ever seen in another species, and it made the warrior race nervous, very nervous. Nervous enough to start planning a conflict with the humans to show dominance. The humans sent seasoned Ambassador Philip Grant to the Hazari homeworld to represent humanity in high-stakes diplomatic talks, arriving on a small shuttle. Ambassador Grant stepped onto the Hazari homeworld, his heart pounding. The gravity was crushing. The air was thick and humid, reeking of alien musk. Massive Hazari warriors glared at him, baring razor-sharp teeth, flexing rippling muscles, and brandishing huge spiked clubs. Grant walked forward anyway, his spine straight, his eyes locked ahead. He had to convince the Hazari not to attack humanity. He was selected for this because he was humanity's best diplomat. But even for him, this would be the ultimate challenge of his career. The fate of the human race could be decided here. Decided by him, by his actions, his words, in the next few hours. Hydrus, the current Hazari emperor, met Grant at the grand entrance to the Hazari imperial palace. The palace was built from the skulls of conquered foes, fused together with molten metal from captured starships. Hydrus sneered down at the human, his four eyes narrowed to slits, his legs like towering tree trunks. Grant had to crane his neck to make eye contact. "Why has your kind come here, human? You are not wanted." Hydrus crossed his four massive arms. His voice was a growl, sending tremors through Grant's bones. "I'm here to prevent a war neither of us want, to forge an understanding between our peoples." Grant held his voice steady, held his gaze firm. Hydrus threw his head back and laughed, the sound booming. "Understanding? Ha! You humans are pathetic, weak, hardly worth conquering. Although we Hazari will conquer you, have no doubt. It is our way." "I assure you, looks can be deceiving, Emperor Hydrus. Humans are stronger than we seem. Let me prove our worth to you. I will face any trial you set before me." Hydrus paused, mandibles clicking. "You would face the trials of Hazari? The challenges that break the bodies and spirits of all but our strongest warriors?" "I would," Grant nodded grimly. "Humanity will do whatever it takes to avoid bloodshed between our peoples. Set your trials before me and I shall overcome." Hydrus smiled, a slow, predatory grin. "So be it, human. But when you fail, and fail you shall, your species will kneel before the Hazari. This I promise you." Grant met the Emperor's stare unflinchingly. Everything depended on this. On him. The trials to come would push him to his limits and beyond. But he would not, could not, fail. For if he did, humanity's future would be measured in mere months. He would prove humanity's strength to Hydrus, or humanity would burn. Philip Grant and Emperor Hydrus stood side by side in the cavernous Hazari war room, hunched over a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots marked the locations of recent attacks by Zoran's rogue faction. The dots were multiplying at an alarming rate. Hydrus slammed a meaty fist on the table, his voice a rumble. "This cannot continue. Zoran's treachery threatens everything we have built." Grant nodded, his heart made. "Agreed. We must act swiftly and decisively to stop him. Together." And act they did. In the following weeks, Grant and Hydrus launched a series of bold initiatives to counter Zoran's influence and solidify the human-Hazari alliance. They established a joint military training program where human and Hazari soldiers trained side by side, learning to fight as one. In the dusty training grounds, beneath the scorching Hazari sun, the warriors of two species forged bonds of sweat and blood. In the gleaming labs of the Imperial Science Institute, human and Hazari scientists and engineers collaborated on groundbreaking technological projects. Merging human creativity with Hazari technical mastery, they developed advanced weapons, shields, and propulsion systems that would give their alliance a critical edge. And on far-flung worlds across the galaxy, human and Hazari diplomats stood together, presenting a united front as they sought to build a network of allies to counterbalance Zoran's aggression. In glittering alien courts and seedy spaceport taverns, they made their case, slowly winning hearts and minds. Through it all, Grant and Hydrus grew closer, spending long hours in council together, debating strategy and tactics. At first, their discussions were tense, marked by clashing viewpoints and ancient prejudices. But as they worked together, facing shared challenges and triumphs, a deep respect blossomed between them. One evening, as they shared a meal in Hydrus's private quarters, the Emperor raised his glass in a toast. To our alliance, Ambassador Grant. May it endure long after we are gone. Grant clinked his glass against Hydrus's, a smile on his face. To our peoples, Emperor Hydrus. May they forever stand together against those who would divide them. But even as they celebrated their progress, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. Zoran's attacks grew bolder and more brutal. Human and Hazari blood spilled on a dozen worlds as the rogue faction struck with increasing frequency. The final blow came when Zoran's spies managed to infiltrate a human weapons depot, making off with a cache of advanced plasma rifles and antimatter grenades. The stolen weapons would give the rebels a devastating advantage in the battles to come. In the wake of this brazen theft, Grant and Hydrus knew they had to act fast. They assembled a crack team of their most skilled warriors and operatives, human and Hazari working side by side. This joint task force would hunt Zoran to the ends of the galaxy if need be. As the team prepared to embark on its first mission, Grant pulled Hydrus aside. We're getting close, Hydrus. I can feel it. Zoran's days are numbered. The Emperor nodded, his eyes hard. Indeed. And when we find him, I will take great pleasure in ripping out his traitorous heart with my bare hands. Grant clasped Hydrus's shoulder. We'll take him down together, my friend, for both our peoples. With that, the joint task force boarded their sleek stealth ship and blasted off into the void, determined to bring Zoran to justice and secure a peaceful future for humans and Hazari alike. The hunt was on. The joint task force's stealth ship emerged from hyperspace, its sleek hull gleaming in the light of an unfamiliar star. Philip Grant stood on the bridge, studying tactical readouts with Emperor Hydrus. New intel, Philip said, his voice tense. Zoran's gotten his hands on some kind of super weapon, a directed energy cannon that could turn this whole conflict on its head. Hydrus's mandibles clicked in agitation. We cannot allow him to keep such a device. It must be neutralized. They formulated a plan. Hydrus would lead a frontal assault on Zoran's compound, drawing attention away from Philip's infiltration team. As the massive Hazari warships descended on the planet, Philip and his strike team slipped through the chaos in a cloaked shuttle. The compound was a fortress of jagged metal and stone. Philip's team breached an outer wall, their mixed composition of humans and Hazari allowing them to overcome each obstacle they encountered. Human tech experts disabled security systems, while Hazari warriors cleared rooms with brutal efficiency. They fought their way through winding corridors, facing waves of Zoran's elite guards. In one tense moment, a human operative named Chen used an EMP device to short out a lethal energy barrier, allowing a Hazari named Kurgthak to charge through and engage the guards beyond in hand-to-hand combat. Finally, they reached the weapon storage area. The directed energy cannon loomed before them, a massive apparatus of alien technology. But as they approached, Philip's eyes widened in horror. The walls were lined with explosive charges. It's a trap, he breathed. Zoran's going to bring this whole place down on our heads. They had minutes, maybe less. Philip's mind raced, analyzing their options. Then it hit him. A crazy, desperate plan. We use the cannon, he said. Reconfigure it to emit a wide dispersal low-power beam. It should fry the detonators without setting off the charges. His team sprang into action. Human techs worked feverishly to rewire the weapon, while Hazari warriors held off Zoran's forces pouring into the room. Philip himself manned the cannon's controls, sweat beading on his brow as he made the necessary calculations. Now, he shouted, activating the weapon. A wave of energy pulsed outward. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then the explosive charges fizzled and went dark. But their victory was short-lived. The weapon's discharge had weakened the building's structural integrity. As the compound began to collapse around them, Philip felt a searing pain in his side. He looked down to see a piece of shrapnel embedded in his flesh. The world grew hazy. He was vaguely aware of being lifted, carried through crumbling corridors. He blinked, focusing on the face above him. Emperor Hydrus himself, bearing Philip to safety with his own forearms. As consciousness faded, Philip saw human and Hazari soldiers fighting side by side, evacuating the ruined compound. Despite the pain, he smiled. They'd done it. They'd stopped Zoran and forged something greater in the process. But as darkness claimed him, Philip knew the cost had been high, and he wondered if he would live to see the future they'd fought so hard to secure. Philip Grant lay motionless on a bed in the Hazari medical bay, his chest barely rising and falling. Tubes and wires snaked across his body, connecting him to alien machines that beeped and hummed. Hydrus loomed over the unconscious human, all four of his massive arms crossed. "You will save him," Hydrus growled at the chief Hazari healer. It wasn't a request. The healer, a wiry Hazari with 6 eyes, nodded nervously. "We're doing everything we can, Emperor, but his physiology is so different from ours. Then learn it," Hydrus snapped. "Bring in human doctors if you must. But this man lives. Do you understand?" The healer bowed low and scurried away. Hydrus turned back to Grant, his mandibles clicking softly. "You fought well, human. Now fight this." In a nearby war room, human and Hazari commanders pored over holographic star charts. Red dots pulsed across the map, holdouts of Zoran's forces. "We've dealt them a crippling blow," a human admiral said, "but these remnants could regroup if we don't act fast." A scarred Hazari warrior slammed a fist on the table. "Then we hunt them down and crush them." Hydrus strode into the room, his heavy footsteps silencing all chatter. "We will do more than that. We will show the galaxy the true strength of our alliance." He outlined his plan for a joint strike force. Heads nodded in agreement as he spoke. Within hours, a team was assembled. Humans in sleek battle armor stood shoulder to shoulder with hulking Hazari warriors. Among them were Chen and Kurgthak, veterans of Grant's covert team. Their first target, a hidden base on a desolate moon. The strike force's ship cut through the void, cloaked in stealth fields developed by human engineers. As they approached the barren surface, Kurgthak turned to Chen. "You humans are more than you seem," the Hazari rumbled. "I look forward to spilling blood alongside you once more." Chen grinned. "Just try to keep up, big guy." They hit the ground running, human agility complementing Hazari strength. Chen's advanced sensors picked up enemy positions, while Kurgthak's battle-honed instincts sniffed out traps and ambushes. Together, they tore through the rebel defenses like an unstoppable storm. On world after world, the pattern repeated. Human ingenuity married to Hazari might. Insurmountable obstacles fell before their combined assault. With each victory, the bonds between the species grew stronger. Then came the mission that would test them all. Deep in an asteroid field, they uncovered a secret Hazari weapons facility. The cache within held prototypes that defied description. Gravity manipulators, reality warpers, planet killers. The human commander whistled. "We could end a dozen wars with this tech." "Or start 100 more, his Hazari counterpart growled. They shared a look of understanding. Without a word, charges were set. The facility erupted in silent flame, scattering debris across the asteroid field. As one, human and Hazari watched the destruction from their ships, knowing they'd made the right choice. Back on the Hazari homeworld, Philip Grant's eyes fluttered open. But the world he saw wasn't real. One moment he was back on Earth, the next he stood on an alien battlefield. Past, present, and possible futures blurred together. He saw himself facing the Hazari trials again, felt the crushing weight of alien gravity. Then the scene shifted. He stood on the bridge of a massive ship, humans and Hazari working in perfect unison. Through the view screen, a vast armada of unknown origin bore down on them. Grant felt a chill. Was this a glimpse of things to come? Hydrus kept a constant vigil by Grant's bedside. As the human ambassador thrashed in delirium, the Hazari Emperor spoke softly. "You have earned a place among us, Philip Grant," Hydrus intoned. "Hazari or human, it matters not. You are one of us now." With trembling hands, he placed a medallion around Grant's neck, the symbol of a blooded ally, the highest honor a non-Hazari could receive. Days later, the strike force returned in triumph. Cheering crowds of humans and Hazari alike lined the streets of the capital, but the celebration was muted. Their greatest victory felt hollow, while Grant's life still hung in the balance. Hydrus addressed the crowds, his voice booming. "Look around you. See what we have accomplished together. This is but the beginning. Human and Hazari, united, we will forge a new future for our peoples." The cheers were deafening, but in a quiet medical bay, monitors still beeped steadily, marking each precious heartbeat of the man who had made it all possible. Philip Grant's eyes snapped open, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The sterile white ceiling of the medical bay swam into focus as he fought to orient himself. His mind reeled with fragmented images, vast alien fleets, worlds consumed in fire, the screams of countless lives snuffed out in an instant. "The Xerillians," he croaked, his voice hoarse from disuse. "They're coming." A massive form loomed over him, Emperor Hydrus, his forearms crossed as he peered down at the human with concern etched across his alien features. "Easy, my friend," Hydrus rumbled. "You've been unconscious for days." Philip tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness forced him back down. "No time," he gasped. I saw the future, a new threat. We have to prepare." The Hazari Emperor's mandibles clicked in agitation. "What did you see?" As Philip recounted his vivid dreams, the medical bay erupted into frantic activity. Alarms blared, and Hazari healers rushed to stabilize the human's rapidly deteriorating condition. "His neural patterns are destabilizing," one healer announced, her 6 eyes blinking rapidly as she studied a holographic readout. "The trauma is too severe." Hydrus's massive hands clenched into fists. "What are our options?" The chief healer hesitated before responding. "There is one possibility, but it's risky." "Tell me," Hydrus demanded. "We place him in stasis. It's his only chance for survival." Philip's eyes widened as he processed the conversation. "No," he protested weakly. "I have to warn them. The Alliance—" Hydrus leaned in close, his voice low and urgent. "You've done your part, Philip. Now let us do ours. We'll be ready when you wake." As the medical team prepped the stasis pod, Philip fought to stay conscious. He grabbed Hydrus's arm with surprising strength. "Promise me," he wheezed. "Promise me you'll be ready." The Hazari Emperor nodded solemnly. "You have my word." The last thing Philip saw before the stasis field enveloped him was Hydrus's face, etched with worry and dedication. Then darkness claimed him, and he knew no more. Years passed. The human Hazari alliance flourished, their combined strength and ingenuity propelling them to new heights of technological and cultural achievement. Yet, through it all, Emperor Hydrus never forgot his promise to the man who had made it all possible. Deep within a secret facility on the Hazari homeworld, an automated system suddenly sprang to life. Lights flickered on, and dormant machines hummed with renewed purpose. In the center of it all stood a single stasis pod, its occupant perfectly preserved. Hydrus stood before the pod, flanked by a team of advisors and medical personnel. With a nod from the Emperor, they began the revival process. The pod hissed open, revealing Philip Grant, looking exactly as he had the day he entered stasis. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then sharpening as awareness returned. "Welcome back, old friend," Hydrus said, offering a hand to help Philip sit up. Philip blinked, taking in his surroundings with growing confusion. How long?" "Years," Hydrus replied softly. "But that's not important now. You spoke of a threat, the Xerillians. Tell us everything." As Philip recounted his visions in detail, the assembled leaders listened with growing alarm. Initially skeptical, their doubts were quickly dispelled, as intelligence reports confirmed the existence of an unknown alien force massing at the edges of known space. "We need to act fast," Philip urged, his voice growing stronger with each passing moment. "The Xyrillians are unlike anything we've faced before. If we're not prepared, they'll overwhelm us completely." Hydrus nodded grimly. "Then we prepare together." In the days that followed, the Alliance mobilized on a scale never before seen. Shipyards worked around the clock, retrofitting old warships and constructing new defensive platforms. Training facilities churned out elite squads of human and Hazari operatives, honing their skills for the battles to come. Philip and Hydrus stood side by side on the bridge of the newly christened flagship, the Defiant. Before them stretched an armada unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, the combined might of humanity and the Hazari, united against a common foe. "Are you ready?" Hydrus asked, his voice low. Philip nodded, his eyes fixed on the starfield ahead. "As ready as we'll ever be." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the ship. A crew member called out, "Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. It's them, the Xyrillians!" Philip and Hydrus shared a final look of understanding. The moment they had prepared for had finally arrived. The fate of their peoples, of the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. "All ships," Hydrus commanded, his voice resonating with authority. "Battle stations, engage the enemy." And with that, the greatest conflict in galactic history.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.